So welcome to the Orange Coast College CLEEO Project Center. Today is the formal inauguration. Last spring, a year ago, we had a soft opening of this space, and we had the opportunity to host Father Gregory Boyle from Homeboy Industries. But today is the formal inauguration, so welcome everyone. This is a very special day. I want to first start by dedicating this presentation today. Specifically, has anybody ever heard of Juanes? Yeah? Who has heard of Juanes? Okay, they're the singers, right? Well, the dedication isn't to those Juanes. The dedication is to the Juanes, which is Juana and Juan Cuellar, my mother and father, that without their inspiration and support, this CLEEO project would not have been an actualization, and this day to realize to have an actual space here dedicated to the CLEEO Project Center. So I just want to start off there. And again, CLEEO Project, CLEEO is an abbreviation for Counseling Latinos for Equity and Engagement at Orange Coast College. CLEEO Project was its inception was in year 2016. And CLEEO Project has three components. One is counseling, so we provide academic, career, and professional development planning. And as well, there's a course component. There's a course counseling A107, A107 honors, which is titled the Chicano Latino Experience in Higher Education, which again can be taken as an honors course as well. And then there's the option to take the course as a cohort with a History of Mexico. So those of you from History of Mexico, of course, welcome. And an American Government class. Also, there is an extracurricular component, which this event is part of. So every semester, I have guest speakers and events here on campus. As well, there's a Cuellar Family Scholarship that has been established to grant scholarships to transferring students as well. So those are the three main components of the CLEEO project. But in regards to the events, this is actually CLEEO 16.0. So it is the 16th edition or 16th semester in a row that CLEEO project has brought events here to the campus. The focus is to provide cross-cultural learning opportunities and experiences for the campus community, and also to provide access, to support the access and success of Chicanos and Latinos in higher education. So those are some of the tenets and points of the CLEEO project, and again, welcome. Again, my name is Eric Cuellar. I'm Associate Professor of Counseling and CLEEO Project Coordinator. And I'd like to begin with a couple of acknowledgements. The first acknowledgement is I want to do a brief land acknowledgement. Orange Coast College itself rests upon the ancestral lands of the Tongva and the Achaman peoples and nations that have inhabited these lands for thousands of years. And I want to acknowledge and support their plight for representation and to be recognized by our society, and that unfortunate historical fact that they were displaced from their lands, but we also basically want to support them in this process of healing and acknowledge their presence still with us today. My second acknowledgement, this one's a first for Orange Coast College and the CLEEO project. Today is May Day, which in many parts of the world today is their Labor Day. And specifically, as the title of this event today is Arte, Cultura, Sabor y Amor, so art, culture, labor, taste, and love. I specifically want to share this with you because it's going to tie into today's presentation. So this labor acknowledgement reads as follows. We recognize and acknowledge the labor upon which our continent, nation, state, and institution are built. We remember that our country was built on the unpaid labor of many people who were displaced from their homelands, and acknowledge their value and contribution to society. We acknowledge all immigrant and indigenous labor, including voluntary, involuntary, trafficked, forced, and undocumented peoples who contributed to the building of the nation and continue to contribute and serve with our labor force. We recognize and acknowledge that our country is continuously defined, supported, and built upon by undervalued communities and peoples, particularly communities of color. We recognize and acknowledge labor inequities, both historical and current, in the shared responsibility for combating unjust systems of inequity in our daily labor and work. We recognize and acknowledge the unjust existence of unpaid and undervalued work and labor, both historical and current, that has entitled us to undue social privilege in our society. We acknowledge and recognize the imperative of advocacy for remembering and honoring the work and labor of our society, both historical and current, in addressing the unjust to reconcile our history and legacy. Thank you very much. So, with that having said, we have some brilliant speakers today, and we have some tamales for tasting a little later this afternoon, so I hope you enjoy. So with that, I want to introduce someone very, very special that's actually the CLEEO project curator. So much of the art that you see here has been brought here to Orange Coast College with the aid and assistance and expertise of Maria Guadalupe. So I'd like to bring her forth. So let's give her a warm OCC welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. First and foremost, thank you for coming. Eric, or Professor Cuellar, sorry. Thank you for having me. This is our continuous collaboration is something I look forward to every semester. This one is particularly near and dear to my heart because this was supposed to happen May of 2020. And we all know how that went. So, when we were talking about the next event, so the way we work is we have an event and then we go, okay, what should we do next? And food for me, I feel has always been a way to access someone's culture, right? You understand a lot through food. And then we started having conversation about food and thought about how food changes. Ingredients get introduced into food most of the time as due to migration, right? Massive people move, they bring their ingredients with them, gets integrated into the new location, and that shifts the food and the flavors, right? And so we're talking about this, and it's like a whole big conversation. You really can't tackle that in one of these events. So we talked about dishes and what dish means a lot. And then we honed it and we settled on the tamal. And how tamal is, is a celebratory dish, right? There's a lot, it's a labor of love. There's a lot of, it's laborious and there's a lot of ingredients and it's a whole process. I mean, for me personally, tamales around Christmas time is my favorite, not simply because I love to eat them, but mainly because I love to make them. That's when I get all the chisme from my aunts and like about what is happening, right? Like you get the stories of when my mom and my aunts and uncles were young and what they did and how my grandma used to make them. So you get all the stories. So it's part of it's integrated. It's part of who we are, right? And so this one, like I said, is very near and dear to my heart. I spoke to a friend about this idea back in before 2020. And he introduced me to Dora Herrera, who will be talking to you today. Her and Michelle and Chef Michelle are sitting over there. They're going to be talking to you about tamales today. I'm not going to give too much away because that's all on their talk. But introduce us, and this event was supposed to happen. So again, I'm really excited that you all get to be here. I'm very excited about eating food afterwards. So thank you again. I hope you really enjoy it. One more thing that's really, really cool today that we have is art. If you get to see the art on this side, is by an artist named Hedy Torres. She is a LA-based artist, and she's here to talk a little bit. So before we talk about tamales, we're going to talk. She's going to come up here and tell you a little bit about her work. So if I can come up here, have her come up here, that'd be great. Thank you.
My name is Hedy Torres, as you guys heard already. I was born in Mexico. Colima, Mexico is one of the smallest states in Mexico. And I came to the United States in 2006. I was undocumented for 3 years, and I was not able to go to school. So, good you guys are here. I was not able to go to school because I didn't have a social security. I was not able to work. I was not able to go to school. And finally, in 2009, I was able to attend community college. But before that, I had to do my GED because I didn't I didn't have my high school diploma. So I had to start from the bottom. I had to learn English, and I had to go through things that not everybody goes through, especially if you're undocumented, especially if you're an immigrant that doesn't speak the language that everybody speaks here, right? So it was not easy, but with my determination, I was able to actually transfer to a university in Cal State Northridge. And during that time, I wanted to be a self-employed because I knew how to do, how to work hard. We Hispanic people are used to work a lot. It's part of our culture, working, and thinking that working a lot will make us be better, but it's actually the opposite. We need to actually work smart, right? So I decided to open a fruit cart. I purchased a fruit cart. I had to pull my car with my car, and decided that working 12 hours, 14 hours a day was not the best, especially because I had to go to school. I was attending a university. So I did that between May to July in 2015, and decided that that was not my thing. And when I sold everything, I realized that I was also a little bit more blessed than other people, and I was more entitled because I was able to decide that I didn't want to do that, right? Other people can't because there is no other choice. So when I was doing my master's degree in 2006, I decided to do a little bit of work and tell stories of my friends. I was able to get a scholarship from the Art Council in Cal State Northridge, where I was sharing the stories of friends who were under DACA. I don't know if you guys are familiar with DACA. Okay, so for those who are not familiar with DACA, it's actually a permit that allows you to work and study in the United States. If you go out, you're not able to come back. So it's just it's the federal action for child arrivals. So it's a permit that allows you to study, to work, but you're not able to get a green card if you didn't come here legally, right? So I did that for my friends because most of them were under the DACA and also were undocumented. And in 2018, I graduated. I started a job because I had to pay my bills. So I started working in a nonprofit organization where we house homeless population. So I started a series of the homeless population. Unfortunately, in 2021, all my work burned down. In downtown, there was a big fire, and about 20 studios burned down. So a lot of my work burned down, about 90% of them. And that was a little, it was like a recall to me to okay, I was dedicating my artwork on documented about my immigration, and decided to choose that as an excuse to change my subject to tell the story of my childhood, which is street vending. In Mexico, I used to be a street vendor. We used to have a hot dog stand in Mexico, and I had to do it because my parents, we were 7 in the family, and in Mexico it's not easy to raise 5 kids, and raise or feed 7 mouths, right? My mom, my dad, and 5 of us. So I had to help them, and I decided to tell a little stories of other people that resonate with my story. So you can see the works over there. They're about street vendors, also telling the story of me as a street vendor back in 2015. And I actually was able to get a grant, $10,000 from Jarritos last year. And also I am working in a project for California Art Council where we are doing 12 pieces of portraits, and all the money, 100% of the money or the profits are going to go towards their permits, to get permits for a year for street vending. And also I'm working in a mural with my nonprofit organization, and that's what I've been doing right now. If you guys have any questions, let me know. And my mural is gonna be until August. It's gonna be in one of the developments they're building for project base in Hollywood. It's gonna be in Hollywood. I cannot share too much about it because it's still it's gonna be a big project. So yeah, I'm working on the project that I'm working for California Art Council is gonna be in September. It's gonna be in Espacio 1839 in East LA, where I'm gonna be sharing the stories of 12 street vendors. And you will be able to purchase the work, and all the money will go to their permits. And if the piece doesn't sell, it's gonna go to them. That piece is gonna be given to the street vendor. So that's my artwork. That's my story. If you have any questions, raise your hands. Oh, sorry.
If you could please share a little bit about the actual art and the street vendors and how you developed personal relationships with them.
Yes, so I mentioned that when my studio burned down, my work was, my research was for a year about the homeless population. And the good thing about the fire, besides erasing everything, is that I was able to start over with a different and similar project that I was doing during my university, during the master's degree. And it was about street vendors. Why? Because I was a street vendor in 2015, and also growing up, I was a street vendor. And I wanted to create a piece or pieces that will evoke some kind of nurturing emotions of, like, when you're a kid, you try this food that makes you feel like home. And I believe as food has the power of making you feel or transport you to your past, where your parents just will bring you something that you will enjoy. And using food as a great tool to not only motivate but to evoke good emotions, right? So I decided to do street vending. Besides that, to actually commemorate the landscapes of Los Angeles, because the street vendors make the landscapes of LA. If you go to LA, you see all these umbrellas, and oh my God, I'm so hungry. Okay, let me just stop and get a fruit, right? Or let me just stop and get a $2 taco, right? Something that makes you feel like, oh, I went to Mexico like 2 years ago and I enjoy it. Or something that makes you feel like, oh, my mom cooks this way, right? So like creating this art piece also speaks about stories that you don't hear in galleries or museums, right? Sharing the stories that not everybody has the opportunity to listen because we ignore them, right? Because we have that type of, what is the word? As a human, we usually try to ignore what other people ignore because we are that way, right? And if I share these stories in a gallery, people are not going to ignore it because people want to be in a space where they go to see an art piece and they will be able to hear these stories. So that's why I decided to do this topic, because not only resonates with me, but it also has to resonate with everybody, right? In a specific way. Yes. Thanks.
One more question.
Okay.
I wonder if it's okay if you could share with us your experience of being interviewed by the Spanish news media in Los Angeles, Univision, Telemundo, and how that experience was.
Oh, yes. I didn't tell the story.
But she's been actually interviewed by
CBS News as well.
Yes.
It was national news last year.
If you could share with us.
So when you're doing artwork or when you're in the industry of entertainment, people will come to you and, I want to do this. And then you will not hear from them, right? So this time I was in this gallery in East LA, sharing one of my pieces that actually sold that day. And this woman comes to me and tells me, I want to make a segment of your work. I was like, okay, let me share you my email. And then a week later, I hear from her. She's like, I want to go to your studio. I want to see how can we work in the segment. I'm like, perfect. So she comes, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to believe until I see cameras and a reporter here. So 3 months later, they come. They show up in my art studio, and they were CBS News. It was actually national news. They came. We spent like 2-3 hours. They were setting everything, and it was such a. I didn't believe it until after that. The interview was there. I forgot her name. The interview was Lilia, Ilya, something like that. But she's in the national news in CBS. I was like, okay, and she would tell me, oh, we want to release the segment this day, and then something happened. I have to wait another week. Something happened another week, and things started happening. She didn't tell me until last year in 2023 January. They released the news without telling me. I just woke up and then my website beep 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 beep. And they released it actually in national news CBS. I didn't believe it. I'm like, what is happening? And then after that, I got Univision, then Telemundo, which are Telemundo actually is super, super professional, super amazing. And they even took me to Tijuana to go to El Julián Álvarez, as a civic singer. And after that, everything changed, but the person who made it happen, she's a Hispanic from Guatemala, right? And she works in there, and then she made it happen, and she told me that the segment was deleted by somebody. So there were so many barriers to make that happen, right? So what I mean by saying that is that there's going to be obstacles, but you can go through it if you believe in yourself and if you believe in other people's abilities and talents. So it was such a great thing that happened. Yes, you can even put my name, Hedy Torres, and you will see it. Yes. Oh, actually, I went with the Lakers this year too. Yes, I forgot to say that. Bye. Thank you, guys.
Hi, we're happy to be here. I just love tamales. I don't know about you guys, but do you know the history of tamales?
No.
You don't? Oh, come on.
I just eat them. I just unwrap them and I eat them.
Well, and then their history.
And then their history.
That's good. So Michelle's going to give you a little bit of the history, and then I'm going to,
But tell me about you, Dora. Who is Dora?
Dora. First of all, Dora's not a chef. Dora's a cook that has had a restaurant for 48 years with her mother and family. And in those 48 years, we've managed to make our food so good that we got a James Beard Award, which is, in case you don't know, the ultimate in American awards in the culinary industry. We also got a shout out from Oprah as the best burrito ever.
It's Oprah good, you guys. I mean.
And interestingly enough, Oprah called us for her show because one of my customers was going to be on her show, and he called me the napkin Nazi because I only gave 3 napkins if you got a burrito. And I'm like, mention on Oprah? Okay, thank you very much, yes. Then they canceled it after I called 1,000 of my closest friends and said, we're going to be on Oprah. Canceled. My sister came up to me and she goes, give me a big hug. Oprah made a mistake. Don't worry, she'll call you back. A year later, she calls us back and she's like, I want to feature you as the best burrito ever. And so that was so cool. And then that's the 2 ones that I love the most. And there's like 15 million after. So while we're eating tamales outside, I can tell you some more stories. How about you?
My name is Michelle. I own a catering company in downtown Los Angeles. Born and raised in the suburbs of La Puente. If anyone knows where that is, it's between like West Covina, Baldwin Park, and if you don't know where that is, San Dimas, I would say.
I still don't know where it
You
is.
still don't know where that is. It's tiny. It's a district. But I feel like I've been a serial entrepreneur since I was born. I used to, sell donuts and lemonade and like candy at school and all the things.
Sorry.
How dare you?
Oh, this is the part where I interrupt you.
I've been cooking for 26 years. I've had my catering company now for 7 years. Before I had my catering company, I went to culinary school. I competed as a professional butcher, won many awards, and then worked in the private sector, private hotels and restaurants. And now I have my catering company, 7 years, going strong.
And the coolest thing is when I met Michelle, I was on a food tour with somebody else, going from one fabulous restaurant to another. And she met me and she goes, my grandma used to take me to Yuca's, which is my restaurant, and I would get the bean and cheese burrito. And she goes, and because of that, I decided to get my chef license.
I decided to go to culinary school. It
Culinary
changed my
school.
life.
And ever since then, we've been best buds, and we love, especially
like
we love.
generations of my family have been eating at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Like my grandma, my mom, myself, and all of their friends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
in Los Feliz forever.
But it's fabulous when we get invited to come together to talk about one of our favorite topics, which is tamales.
Tamales. So we
Tell them all about it.
talk about tamales without talking about corn. Okay? I love corn. I'm obsessed with corn. And I feel like everybody else should be too. And hopefully by the end, you'll all be obsessed with it as well. I would like to start with a small quote from the poet Octavio Paz. It's one of my favorite little sayings that he says about corn. I'll read it in Spanish and then I'll read it in English. El invento del maíz por los mexicanos solo es comparable con el invento del fuego por el hombre. And what he's saying is the invention of corn by Mexicans is compared to the invention of fire by man. It is that important to our culture, corn to be compared to with fire. It is that important to us. And I'd like to open this up for a conversation. So I'm going to ask some few questions, and if nobody answers, it's cool. Does anybody know?
Me. Oh,
not
no.
you. You already know the answers. She's not my thing. Off the top of your head, the five main corns types. Does anybody know the five? Give me one.
There's more than one?
There's more than one.
Oh, who knew?
The one with the fungus?
The funk.
Huitlacoche is actually a fungus, not actually the corn.
Half a point.
And not even the name of the corn, just like the seed or whatever. Corn blanco, which is a dent corn. So there's five main corns. Purple one? No, it's a type of blue corn, purple corn that's also a dent corn. So there's five main corns. There's a dent corn, and dent is the main corn, and then has all these other corns underneath it. You'll get the blanco, choclo is a varietal of the dent, purple, which is also a varietal of the dent. And dent corn has a higher protein, and it's a little bit drier. And so that is the corn you use to make the tamales. And that is the corn that's going to get nixtamalized. So dent is the corn that we use. And then we also have a wax corn. So the wax corn are the smaller corns with the smaller kernels, and those are the ones you see that are like decorative. You can definitely eat them when they're fresh. You don't want to eat them, once they're all dried out. There's popcorn. You can't, the sugar levels and the carbohydrate levels in popping corn is so high that you can't even turn that into a tamal. It makes mush. And oftentimes the popping corn that doesn't get dried out to turn into popping corn can get turned into like polenta. And also polenta is corn, you guys, if you didn't know. It is not flour,
It's Italian corn.
It's Italian corn. We also have the dent, we have the wax, and we have the sweet corn. and which is what everybody knows that we eat. Sweet corn in the spring, sweet corn tamales.
Is that like the green corn tamales?
The green corn tamales
Okay.
is the sweet spring corn.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that is the corn that you can, I mean, technically, yes, you can just eat all of these corns fresh, but they're not going to taste very good, most of them. The sweet corn is the one that's going to taste very good because it is the sweet corn. Let's see, what's the other one?
Flint corn?
Pardon?
Flint?
Flint.
All right.
Corn. I was
You
like,
get a
there's
star.
another one. And flint corn is another type of corn as well. And this one can also get turned into nixtamalization as well. But the flint corn, they use it to do a lot of pairing. So when you see like the rainbows, they'll take the flint corn and then they'll hybrid it with something else because it's the genome of that corn is very easy to splice. So when people are trying to make better corns, bigger corns, smaller corns, they will use the DNA of the flint corn as the base to do that. So those are the main 5 corns. And then from those corns, you get all of these different corns. Corn in America, there is almost no original corn in America. And I say almost. There are a lot of smaller farmers in California specifically that have started bringing corn over from corn banks and also from Mexico and other Central American countries that are starting to grow them back into California, which is great because we have perfect soil for growing corn. So there are very small patches of non-GMO organic certified corn that has all of the great minerals and whatnot. But most of the corn here grown in the United States has been modified, does not have the same nutritional content or value as original corn does. So going back to the history of corn and tamales, how old do you think corn is?
Ooh,
Just a number.
older than dirt.
Just curious.
Beginning of Earth.
Record shows, like scientific record shows. What do you guys think?
14,000 years.
Close.
13.
12
Written down,
12 and a half.
it's 11. So in written writing, it's 11,000 years. There is note of corn. And from that time, there are still scientists today that are researching, corn and its origins and its DNA and what's happening. So this father corn, that is a father-mother corn, that's about 10,000 years old, they're just starting to study it and continue to study and see, where all of this other corn has come from. And it's really, really impressive just to think. And a lot of scientists don't even have enough people to help them. There are not enough people interested in corn to study all of its history and its DNA. But what they are finding, and what's very interesting, and what I do a lot of my research on, is the fact that during this 11,000 years that we have in writing, from where we are today, from where it started, it's they can't find the pattern of where nixtamalization has come from, and like
That was the
what
need.
year,
Yeah.
and what year, yeah.
So you're stating that it's 11,000 years old because it's the first time somebody wrote about it, right?
No, I'm saying in writing. It's way older than that.
okay.
I'm saying that in writing.
14,000 years?
Maybe.
I mean, technically, sure. It could be as old as the earth, really. If we're talking about it, it could be as old as the earth. But like in writing, we really only have it in writing for about 11,000 years. And only over, I would say, the past 15 to 20 years have we really started to study it. And not study it to like genetically fix it or change it so that we can get more, grow more. I mean, study it as in its origin, to where it came from, how it was originally, how we can get it back to that, and comparing it to corns from other countries. Scientists now from other countries and our countries, they're like talking to each other. And they're like, what's going on with your corn, bro? And like,
And don't bring it over here.
don't bring it over here. Like, your shit's messed up. Sorry. Like, what's going on with your corn? How did this work out? So it's really fascinating to me that these conversations are happening in the corn world, and they're starting to talk to smaller farmers and what they're doing to keep their corn safe. Because corn, male and female corn, if there is a wind and a farm is, a few acres away and that wind pollinates from that side, it's easy for a corn to change its cell structure, and it will change the flavor profile. And then the next harvest, if you're growing that corn for seed for your next harvest, it's really easy for that corn to change. So these conversations are happening, and it's really exciting. So that's corn in a nutshell. But nixtamalization, which has happened over years and probably by accident, it all started out with wood ash and dried corn. Someone probably had a pot of dried corn and it fell into a bowl of water that had wood ash in it, and they're like, well, let's just boil it and see what happens. And then once you boil the dried corn, the dent corn, with the wood ash, that wood ash turns into lye. And it starts to peel the out exterior of the dried corn. And once that happens, there's a chemical process that happens, which not only makes the corn more nutritious, but it breaks it down so that our systems can break it down as well. So our systems are then able to process that corn once it has been nixtamalized. If you don't nixtamalize your corn, then you don't have masa. You don't have tortillas, you don't have sopes, you don't have tamales. What you do have is polenta. It's dried corn that is just milled, and you have polenta. You have a beautiful puree. That's what you have when you don't nixtamalize it. So once you've done the nixtamalization process, which is dried corn, cooked in lye, and depending on the protein that's in the corn, that's how long you have to cook it with the lye to reach the correct pH. Every corn color has a different protein, so it means that the pH has to be different. And that's just been trial and error, handed down from generations to generations, and it's flavor, look. I mean, now there's like cool stuff and you can test it with strips. But back in the day, and still in a lot of our countries, you're just, okay, that doesn't look right. You pull it out, you dent it, you feel it up, and then, okay, it's starting to peel, it's ready. So once it's boiled, you take it out, then you rinse it. Has anybody made pozole here? Yes. Yeah? You made the corn from scratch, and you boiled it with the lye. Okay, so same process, kind of same process. You have to wash it. And you wash it like in a colander, and you wash it really well, and then all of it starts to peel. And there's an eye to the corn. The corn kernel looks like this. This is the meat, and then right here is the pick that sticks inside the cob. That pick will fall out naturally once it's cooked long enough and has hit the correct pH. When you rinse it, it will fall out naturally. So when you're looking at it, that's what you want to find. So you wash it, and then it's shiny. It's beautiful, shiny, silky, beautiful. You take that out, and then you're ready to mill. And when you mill it, back in the day, they would have 2 stone rocks, this thick, at least each one. And they had like a spiral grid. And they would take them, and they would just twist the corn in between. And then put it back in, and then they would just grind like this. Now there's automatic ones. Now there's crank ones. Tortillerías. But you would just mill your corn, and then depending on what you're making, that's how fine you're going to mill your corn. Some people like it not as fine. Some people like it thicker. I feel like fancier tortillas get a finer mill. They're really delicate. They can be really thin. Some of them are not. It just depends on what you like, and then they just get milled. And then once it's milled, then you're not even done yet. So once it's milled,
but wait, there's
you
more.
want to let it rest. And then that's when you actually start to make your masa. So a lot of towns, or my family is Salvadoran. So I remember every little town in El Salvador has their own mill. So you would walk to the mill and get all the chisme, and like talk to everybody like, oh, hey girl, what's going on? And they're like, yeah, give me 2 pounds. And you'd get your 2 pounds of masa, and then you'd walk home all cool. And then you do it by hand. Now we use KitchenAids, Robocos, giant mixers, but you would just mix it by hand. And the thing with when we're making tamales is you want the ratio of fat, and it could be any fat, and liquid, and any liquid. You want those ratios to be in balance. When those ratios are in balance with your masa, you do a water test. You just get a cup of water, you drop it in, and if it floats, you are ready to make tamales. If it doesn't float, you're done. Yes?
When you say fat, you mean lard?
No. Well, traditionally, most people use lard to make their tamales. But I feel like it really depends on where you are to make them. You know, we've done tamales with lard, beef tallow, chicken fat, schmaltz, coconut. The ones we did today are with coconut fat, coconut oil, but not the oil, not the liquid oil, the solidified oil. So when you start to play with your tamale masa, you want to, you can play with it any way, but the solid state fat in comparison to the liquid state fat is going to give you a different texture and flavor profile. So I always tell people, if you're going to make pork tamales, use pork lard. If you're going to make chicken tamales, use chicken fat. If you're going to make beef tamales, use beef fat. Because especially for me, my style of cooking, I'm classically French trained. So my style of cooking is layering. I'm always layering and using the same product in different ways over and over again. So if I'm using pork, I'm going to braise my meat ahead of time. I'm going to reserve that liquid from that pork. And when I make my masa, I have this beautiful fat that I have rendered from my pork, and I'm going to whip it in. And the liquid, instead of using water, I'm going to use the liquid from that pork that I just braised, because I'm adding flavor into the masa. And then you'll get a nice balance of the liquid with the fat with the corn. And that's what you're looking for, ways to inject flavor into your tamales without adding a dry spice or a fresh herb or whatever. You want to try to use already what you're cooking, so you intensify those flavors when you're making your masa. And same thing if you're making a vegan tamal, if you're making a chicken tamal. You want to use the flavors that are in your filling to flavor your tamal in general. But getting back to whipping it together, you want to whip your masa and incorporate air. And it's if you're doing it, none of us are going to do it by hand, let's be real, okay? But let's just say if you are doing it by hand,
The tortilla
you're
is your
just
friend.
like, and then you tag someone else in because you're sweating and your arms are going to fall off. And you're incorporating in that air. If you're doing it with the KitchenAid, what you're looking for is fluff. You're looking for the fluff in the masa. It should, what does it look like?
Fluffy.
It's fluffy. It's spreadable, kind of like peanut butter.
And it doesn't stick to
and
your
it doesn't
fingers.
stick to your fingers. You can also run it here, take a chunk, and if it sticks to your hand,
You
it
gotta
might need
fix
more
it,
fat,
yeah.
or it might need more water, it might need more whipping. But when you press it on, it should come off of your hand. And your hand should have a nice sheen from the fat. That's a good sign. Or if it floats in the water, always the float test. And then once it's floating, then you're ready to start making your tamales. You gonna go over making tamales? You want me to go over making tamales?
No, I can do that.
Okay. Dora's going to talk about making tamales, but that's the brief history of corn and tamales.
So, I don't know about you guys, but I learned a lot of cool stuff today. And she's French cuisine trained. That's amazing to me. The way I was trained, it's like, get up, we're making tamales. I'm like, oh, okay. And we didn't have a recipe. We didn't know there were 5 different kinds of corn. My mom would just say, go down to the corner tortilleria and buy 4 or 5 pounds of masa. And then it would come. But that's just how you make tamales. What makes tamales so good is that they're a tradition. So I looked up the words tradition and culture just for the hell of it. And it's like lifestyle, society, manners, values, heritage. And I'm like, what does that even mean? So I want to do an experiment with you guys. I want you all to close your eyes and picture this. As you open eyes.
I'm looking at you guys. Close them.
It's Sunday morning. You're just coming awake, stretching lazily in your bed, when you suddenly smile. A big, happy smile. What is happening? Why are you so happy all of a sudden? Your nose has detected the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. So suddenly you hop out of bed, you dress hurriedly, and you rush downstairs, just stopping long enough to pull the comb through your hair. That is tradition. You know deep in your insides what's going to happen next. The coffee's brewing. Maybe your mom is going to cook huevos a la mexicana with the chili and the hot tortillas and the piping beans. And those smells will soon overpower the coffee aroma. Maybe for you, it's the sizzling of pancake batter on the griddle. Or, when I was in college, the clang of the refrigerator door announcing that yesterday's leftover pizza, yes, cold pizza for breakfast, will soon be devoured. All right, so how do you feel about eating now? I mean, we learn all the history of it, and it's important for us to know what we're eating came from. But what makes tamales such a big tradition in Mexico is the fact that we come together sometimes for religious things like Christmas, Dia de los Muertos, quinceañeras, weddings, sometimes just for the hell of it. You know, it's like, I feel like a tamale. You want to get together and make a few thousand? Yeah, okay.
You're bored? I'm making tamales.
And originally, tamales were made for the workers, the hunters, the travelers. And the nixtamalization helped because then they could have a little packet instead of, have you ever tried to put polenta in a paper bag? It's not going to hold. So that's originally what it came from. It was just like a really nice meal that was filling and would hold. Sometimes I read this. This is, the cooking method allowed the tamales to last up to 20 days or so. Not in my house.
No. Same.
And they're hard to make. They look really easy, but you have to get the masa just right. And if your mom's not watching, people start eating the masa, and you're like, stop. The cooking has to be done. Like, we make ours with seasoned ground pork. We put achiote, spice, because I'm from the Yucatan, so we do the southern style. And then when we first moved here, my sister and I would head out at 10 o'clock at night to find banana leaves, because the supermarkets didn't have banana leaves.
And
So-
neither did their neighbors.
So we would go and, we're like, oh, look, there's one. We're like, hurry. And we'd bring it back, and you can't just cut the banana leaf and start folding your tamales in it. You have to wash it, and then you open a flame, and you take the big leaf, and it was fun. It's like you just slowly pass it over the open flame, and the tamal changes from a dark green to a lighter green, and suddenly it's pliant. It's like cloth. And that's when you cut it, and you make your little ball of dough, you put it in the press, or my mom always was like, no, it's got to be done this way. And I'm like, no, Mom, I got a press. We can do a few hundred of those.
It's
And
different.
then a lot of people like to put half a pound, they think that the bigger the better. And it's like, no, there's got to be a balance of the dough and the meat, the spices. We also do, like you mentioned, you cook the pork, we take the juices and mix it into the masa. And we never know, it's like, try it. And then and then eventually you learn from the matriarch to the daughter to the next generation, and the next generation goes. But anyways, they're hard to make. So the village women, what they did was like, well, you know, if we all get together, we can all make lunch for all our husbands in one thing, and then we can relax and drink a margarita. And you mentioned, Maria mentioned the chisme and the news, you know, so it became like
Social.
a very social thing. And now today, they come in many shapes and sizes. They're like our family, like, you know, big, small, obnoxious, lazy.
You can tell the lazy tamal. They just fall apart. They just
Yeah.
fall out of the wrapper.
Yeah. We have, in the Yucatan, we have 28 varieties of tamales.
There are thousands. And to say tamal is
Yeah.
just like, it's a style. It's like saying chicken. Oh, that chicken dish. There's so many types. And in one town, they could be making it almost the same ingredients. It's pork tamal. But from house to house, it will vary because of, they call it the hand, la mano.
Yeah.
El que la está cocinando, la mano que cocina, the hand that is cooking it. So the flavors come from, because, you know, it came from this generation, this generation. And even within families,
Yeah.
they'll just taste different, or they fold them different. And in small towns, it'll be the same tamal, but you can tell what house it came from by the way they fold it.
Yeah.
Or how
Or
many
the
little
wrap.
ties they
Yeah,
have,
yeah,
or how
yeah.
the wrap, or, you know, whatever. They're like, you know, from the good banana leaf, from the cheap banana leaf, or the little piece in the foil, you know.
Yeah.
So it's different. And
those
in
are the
the
best.
southern style of tamales,
So I was describing the southern style. The northern style uses corn husk, and
Yeah.
they don't put theirs over open flame. They do
We
they
steam
soak
them,
it.
yeah.
You soak them.
so I learned to make,
You steam them or soak them?
I soak them. Sometimes I steam them,
Okay.
but you can just dip them. There's so
Okay.
many different ways. Just in this conversation. So like some people will
You
take,
do what?
I know. Some people will take the dried corn husks and leave them overnight in cold water,
Yeah.
and then leave them to drain out of the cold water, because they don't want to cook the hoja, because it changes the flavor profile. Some people dip them in boiling water for like 1 minute and then let them drain, because they feel like the boiling water makes it more pliable than the cold water left overnight. And I've seen even people that they steam them.
Yeah.
They just steam them because they don't want it too wet.
Yeah.
They just, you know, for like 15 minutes.
But God forbid you walk into your mother's house and go, "Mommy, I learned a new technique." Get out of here.
Get out of here.
It's like, this is the way we've
This
done
is
it
not
in
how
our
we're making them.
Never.
Yeah.
And you don't change anything.
Yeah.
Which makes it hard because, like, you brought some mushroom tamales and
So I made northern style tamales, which is from like northern Mexico. So through all of Mexico and Central America, through all of the Americas, I feel like there are hundreds of varietals of tamales and types and styles. But what we see here most in California are northern style. So that is corn husk filled with masa and then a filling. And we usually, I'm going to use your paper real quick, sorry. And what we normally
but they'll see my notes.
I'll use this
Oh,
one.
just kidding.
The CLEEO. And what you normally see is a threefold, which is just pretend this is the hoja. So masa, filling, fold, right? Fold at the bottom. And then it's peeking out.
Oh.
This is like the traditional, this is what kind of tamales we see here. And I made this kind today. So I made maseca tamal, which has rajas. So rajas just means slices. It doesn't mean peppers, it just means strips. So it has a strip of cheese and a strip of chili. And I did it with maseca. What's cool about everyone here who's gonna try it, you're gonna try 3 different types of tamales, but also 3 different types of masas.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to see the difference. And that was very important, and we wanted to make sure that you guys got to experience that. So the tamal that looks like this is made with maseca, which is a dried corn that has been nixtamalized. So once the nixtamalization process happens, then they dehydrate it again, a second time, and then they mill it. And it's dry milled, and then that's what you see the maseca bag at the grocery store, you know? And then you can buy that and you can make your tamales, your sopes, tortillas, you know, whatever you want. And the main difference between the fresh and the dried is the hydration. So the hydration process takes a little bit longer in the dried tamal, and the texture is going to be different. The flavor profile is going to be different. It's not going to be as corny as the fresh tamal. It's just not. It's just not. I know. So you'll have that one. And then you have other ones that are wrapped in they're Mexican style, but I wrapped them the way Guatemalans wrap their chuchitos. So a Guatemalan tamal, which is a chuchito, is corn masa with beans inside, and they wrap them like little presents. They're like little bundles. And then they have a belt in the center. So those are made with a corn from Tehachapi Grain Project. If you're interested in corn and local grains, check them out. They're fantastic. Tehachapi Grain Project is growing dent corn, blue, and Nostine. We're using Nostine today. So the Nostine corn is a nice, rich, yellow corn that has a really nice corn floral flavor to it. It's been nixtamalized and milled in East LA, and then I get it, and then I prepare it with the fat and all the good stuff in it. And that one is filled with a mushroom mole. It's completely vegan. It's roasted mushrooms, and the mole is made from scratch. My mom and I have been working on mole recipes, I don't know, for the past 12 years.
And I volunteered as the taster.
Yeah, pretty much. Just trying to figure it out. Countless YouTube videos, countless cooking sessions with my friends' grandmas and my line cooks and my cooks' moms and my cooks' wives, learning, their technique. And every person you do it with does it completely different.
Oh, yeah.
So you just mole is one of those things that you have to trial and error over years to perfect and figure out what works best for you.
And then you perfect it, and somebody else says, "But wait,
but wait." Or
So-
you could just make it to where you like it, essentially, because someone's mole is always going to be better, and someone's mole is always going to be different.
So what we do
that's fine.
is we go to the tortilleria and we buy the masa for tortillas, and we bring it home, and then we prepare it. We put all the manteca from the puerco and all that in. And then I lost my train of thought. Oh, we filled them with the ground pork and achiote, and we wrap them in banana leaf. And here, over the years, now we have foil and a little piece of banana leaf, because initially Americans were like, "What is that?" And they try to eat the leaf, and so over the years it just got, and we got more famous, so we started making, instead of 50, a few hundred, and then a few more.
Now they make 2,000 a week.
Yeah, sure. I'll go with what she said. But when we cook them, and you can tell they're ready. Sometimes, you put a penny or a nickel in the pot so that when it starts boiling, it's like, oh, it's ready. We don't do that. We just keep checking and checking. And then when it's finally ready, my mom made some hot chocolate. And sometimes we make these at 11 o'clock at night. So at 11 o'clock, they're ready. Hot chocolate, fresh baguette. So carbohydrate with carbohydrate. Don't let anybody tell you that that's a no-no.
We're all about it.
You just open your baguette, you
the pan dulce.
throw the tamal in, and you eat it, and it's like heaven. And a lot of these, like the tamaladas, it's like an assembly line party. All it's doing is passing knowledge from one generation to the next, and and like you said, when the corn changes, so every generation adds this little twist, but it reminds us of where we've come from, where we've been, who we are right now, and we start thinking about the future. What's our future hold? What are we going to do to make life better, to make the world better? I just went off on a tangent.
No, but
Go make the world better, people.
That's the great thing about tamales. It's not just It's not just nourishment for the body. It's nourishment for the soul.
Yes.
It's nourishment for the mind. Like when we get together to make tamales for someone's wedding, You know, like so much love and effort is put into making those tamales. Like the positive vibes, like I'm getting chills.
Yeah,
like
it's
the
like water
positive
for-
vibes. Oh my god! And energy that is getting put from the hands. You know, that
Because you're talking about the
'cause you're
bride-to-be.
talking about the bride and the groom, and there's
And-
the
and do
cute
you
and
remember
everything.
this?
And
You
do you remember
remember-
when I got married, and then
Yeah.
your mom came and made them for me, and then your quinceañera, y ta, 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 ta. And like it just happens like that, and it's so wonderful. And then you get this bundle on the actual wedding day, and of course they're fantastic. Of course they're amazing.
delicious.
They have all of these positive energies with them, and they're
Yeah.
made
Never
by like
make 'em when you're
all the
angry.
hands. You can't make them when they're angry. Just get out of here. You know, and same thing when it's for a baptism. It's usually
Yeah.
around, you know, something
So all
major.
the love for the person that's celebrating goes into the food, and you can taste it when you. And I think with that we should say, who's ready to taste some
Who's ready to
tamales?
taste tamales?
All right.
Well, I
Well,
don't know. Does anyone else need to speak?
So as you can see, today's presentation, Arte, Cultura, Labor, Sabor y Amor, we can see that in today's presentation of art, culture, labor, taste, and love. And I just wanted to share also that Hedy Torres, who presented earlier, she has created these for the CLEEO project, and they will become part of the CLEEO permanent art collection. And as you can see, we have the tamal represented today, and that hand is not mine, just in case you were wondering. So we have these today, and again, what the art that you see here, that is permanently here, and we're continuing to develop our art collection. So I just wanted to make that note. And are we ready for some tamales? Yeah, this is going to be special. But before we go, I want to basically some special acknowledgments. I want to thank Trustee Mary Hornbuckle, who is in attendance with us today. I also want to acknowledge our OCC campus president, Dr. Angelica Suarez. Orange Coast College's Vice President of Student Services, Dr. Majid Nurman. And also Trustee Liz Parker that is joining us today as well. And if I could please ask Dr. Angelica Suarez to share a few words today.
So I know that I am between all of you and the tamales, right? So what I can tell you is that growing up, I have been kindly asked to leave the tamale making line by my mother. Because as you start putting the masa on the corn husk, you know, I was already exhibiting the OCC spirit of creativity and innovation, and I was putting quite a lot of masa into the corn husk, and so obviously we were probably planning to make 3,000. No, I'm just kidding, and I was using it all up on one tamale. So anyway, but it really is. As I was sitting in the back, I was thinking about, you know, my growing up and with my family, and just how beautiful that is. And so I'm really excited that we have programs like CLEEO, like this center, to be able to share these stories, stories about growing up, our families, our cultures, our perspectives. And so I just wanted to thank Professor Eric Cuellar and all of the champions that have brought this center to fruition for all of your work, your leadership, your creativity, and your inspiration to all of our students here at Orange Coast College and the CLEEO Center. Thank you very much. Don't worry, I'm going to sit down in like 1 second here. I just wanted to share one more thing. So in 2023, the CLEEO Center was nominated by the Orange Coast College Academic Senate. I see President Gordon back there, Vice President Rendell Drew, and for the award for an exemplary award. And in that nomination, I wanted to read you a couple things that we said about the CLEEO Center. Throughout the years, the CLEEO program has created an environment that is equity-minded, socially just, and inclusive for Latinx students as an effective approach to advancing academic excellence. Faculty coordinator, Professor Eric Cuellar, has worked diligently with the college community over the past several years to create educational experiences for students inside and outside of the classroom, where they feel valued, seen, connected, and their personal narratives honored. I want to leave you with just these words, and it's from an academic scholar in the field of ethnomathematics and professor emeritus at Orange Coast College, Dr. Eduardo Arismendi Party, who is here with us today. Eduardo. Dr. Party says, as he describes CLEEO, without the CLEEO programs, these students would not be able to crystallize their dreams of becoming working professionals and contributing to the greater good. The joy and fulfillment that I have personally received from seeing the exponential success, which can be statistically supported, is something that has enriched my life and will keep me involved with the CLEEO program until the end of my journey in this life. So with that, congratulations on the inauguration of our CLEEO Center. Thank you for your leadership.